In Munich, 1934, a hotel room was forcibly entered by men in gray uniforms adorned with skull insignia. Ernst Röhm, roused from sleep, confronted his captors, challenging them to let Hitler execute him personally. These individuals, once loyal to Röhm, now served a different master, their allegiance visibly declared by the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler cuff titles. Chosen for their physical prowess and indoctrinated into absolute obedience, their purpose was to eliminate perceived threats to their leader, rather than merely shield him. This operation solidified Hitler's internal power. Its external projection would soon engulf Europe. The origins of this formidable unit trace back to November 9, 1923. Adolf Hitler, then a burgeoning political figure, led approximately 2,000 men through Munich, aiming for the Bavarian Defense Ministry. This paramilitary force, the Sturmabteilung, SA, or Storm Division, commanded by Ernst Röhm, an early Nazi ally, represented Hitler's primary instrument for seizing power through direct action. Confronted by 130 prepared German soldiers, a tense standoff ensued. The subsequent gunfire resulted in 16 Nazi fatalities, an event later enshrined as the Blutfahne, or blood flag, a sacred symbol within the Third Reich. Hitler's subsequent imprisonment in 1924 fueled his resolve to establish a personal guard ensuring his future authority. The Nazi Party's ascent to power was not immediate. However, the economic devastation of the late 1920s, exacerbated by the Great Depression, propelled Hitler's message to prominence. By the early 1930s, the Nazis commanded significant electoral support, progressively securing national control. The SA remained instrumental in suppressing opposition, yet Hitler harbored a growing apprehension regarding Röhm's increasing influence and the SA's expanding power post-1933 chancellorship. Hitler's ambition for unchallenged leadership necessitated neutralizing any potential rivals. Months into his chancellorship, Hitler began expanding a specialized guard unit drawn from the Schutzstaffel, SS. This contingent, initially numbering just over 100, rapidly grew to nearly 800 by November 1933. During a commemoration of the failed beer hall putsch, Hitler demanded a direct oath of loyalty from this unit. From that moment, it was formally designated the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, LSSAH. Its members swore unconditional allegiance and service unto death directly to Hitler, bypassing traditional oaths to the state or its institutions, their personal devotion manifested by his name emblazoned on their uniform cuffs. The selection and training protocols for the SS, particularly the Leibstandarte, significantly surpassed requirements for standard Wehrmacht service or membership in Ernst Röhm's Sturmabteilung. Candidates underwent rigorous vetting, demanded to embody the National Socialist ideal of Aryan purity, characterized by specific physical attributes, robust health, and an athletic physique. Heinrich Himmler, the SS leader, instituted a demanding training regimen, prioritizing peak physical condition through diverse sports and strenuous exercise. Unlike the Wehrmacht's focus on conventional strategy, SS recruits were deliberately pushed to physical and psychological limits. Training incorporated live-fire exercises and exposure to severe environmental conditions, designed to forge unyielding combatants. This process aimed to eliminate weakness, cultivating individuals prepared to operate with brutal efficiency and unwavering ideological conviction. Beyond physical hardening, recruits underwent continuous, pervasive indoctrination in National Socialist dogma, ensuring absolute loyalty to the regime and its directives. Throughout the early 1930s, the Leibstandarte served not merely as Hitler's personal guard, but as the designated instrument for sensitive internal security operations. Its members' loyalty was directly to the Führer, bypassing traditional state allegiances. By 1934, Ernst Röhm, leader of the million-strong SA, presented a formidable challenge to Hitler's authority. Röhm openly advocated for radical economic reforms and, critically, sought to integrate the SA as the new national army, directly threatening the Reichswehr's institutional power and Hitler's ultimate control. Perceiving this as an intolerable threat, Hitler, in concert with Himmler, orchestrated a decisive purge. On June 30th, 1934, elements of the SS, including the Leibstandarte, executed a coordinated sweep. Hitler himself, accompanied by LSSAH personnel, confronted SA leaders at a hotel in Bad Wiessee. Many were summarily executed on site or arrested and subsequently killed without legal process. Röhm himself was not spared. The purges extended beyond the SA hierarchy, targeting other political opponents, former chancellors, and critics like Gustav Ritter von Kahr, who had suppressed the 1923 beer hall putsch. This event, known as the Night of the Long Knives, was officially framed as a necessary act of national security. The Leibstandarte's decisive involvement in this ruthless consolidation of power cemented its role as Hitler's personal enforcement arm, eliminating the last major internal challenge to his absolute rule. As the SS consolidated its position as Nazi Germany's principal paramilitary arm, its constituent units received enhanced operational capabilities. The Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, specifically, underwent significant upgrades, including motorization and expansion to regimental strength. With internal control secured, the regime's focus shifted to external territorial expansion. The first such deployment occurred in 1935 with the re-annexation of the Saarland, a region administered by France since 1920. While the LSSAH encountered no armed resistance as local populations largely welcomed the German presence, this operation served as a crucial practical exercise. It provided invaluable experience in military deployment, establishing authority in newly acquired territories, and executing efficient occupation protocols. These foundational skills were subsequently applied during the annexations of Austria and the Sudetenland, further refining the unit's operational capabilities. By 1939, as Hitler directed his ambitions toward Poland, the Leibstandarte had evolved into a highly militarized formation, its operational profile nearing that of a conventional army unit. Their field gray uniforms mirrored those of the Wehrmacht, differentiated only by SS collar insignia and the distinctive LSSAH Dietrich skeleton key emblem. At 4:45 on September 1, 1939, the Leibstandarte was among the vanguard units commencing the invasion of Poland, initiating the Second World War. The initial Polish resistance proved largely ineffectual against the LSSAH's mechanized assault. However, the unit's actions extended beyond conventional military objectives. Records indicate a pattern of systematic brutality. Villages were subjected to arson, civilian populations were targeted, and widespread destruction was enacted. This conduct reflected the unit's intensive ideological conditioning and disregard for established conventions of warfare, even after securing tactical objectives. The swift subjugation of Poland, marked by the LSSAH's aggressive operations, merely prefaced Hitler's broader expansionist agenda across Europe. In May 1940, the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, LSSAH, was again at the forefront of Germany's expanding military operations, executing the initial phase of the invasion into the Netherlands. This offensive formed a critical component of the broader strategic plan for the Western Front. The unit demonstrated remarkable operational speed, covering over 215 kilometers within 4 days and directly contributing to the rapid surrender of the Dutch capital. With the Netherlands under German control, the LSSAH was subsequently redirected to participate in the decisive push against France. Operating in conjunction with other German formations, the Leibstandarte advanced towards the increasingly constricted Allied perimeter at Dunkirk. Here, substantial British and French forces found themselves encircled, their defensive capabilities severely compromised. At a pivotal moment, Adolf Hitler issued a controversial directive, ordering a halt to the German advance. This decision temporarily spared the trapped Allied forces from a direct, potentially devastating assault. However, the LSSAH, known for its aggressive operational doctrine, did not remain passive. Its commander, Josef Dietrich, identified a group of British artillery observers occupying a strategic position overlooking German lines. Despite the Führer's explicit order to halt, Dietrich initiated an independent and aggressive action. He rallied his personnel, leading them in a direct assault to eliminate the observation post, employing overwhelming firepower to neutralize the threat and disrupt Allied reconnaissance. The unit's actions continued to escalate. Following this engagement, as German forces resumed their broader advance, elements of the Leibstandarte secured a nearby French village. Here, over 80 Allied soldiers, predominantly British, were captured. These prisoners were subsequently confined within a barn. Without further process, they were then summarily executed by LSSAH personnel. This event, later identified as the Wormhoudt massacre, represented a significant instance of war crimes committed by the unit during the Western Campaign, reflecting the unit's established disregard for conventional rules of engagement and treatment of prisoners. Following the Western Campaign, the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, LSSAH, continued its expansion, reaching a strength exceeding 6,500 personnel. By late 1940, the unit was redeployed to the Balkans, where it played a decisive role in the German offensive. Operating across Yugoslavia and into Greece, LSSAH formations effectively neutralized British platoons, overwhelmed entrenched defenses, and interdicted retreating Allied forces. This rapid advance culminated in the Allies' expulsion by the end of April, with the Leibstandarte conducting a triumphal march through Athens. By 1941, the LSSAH had solidified its reputation as a formidable and ideologically committed formation within the German armed forces. With France secured, Hitler directed the unit's focus eastward, targeting the Soviet Union. As German troops prepared for the invasion, LSSAH strength further increased to approximately 11,000 men. Initially equipped with standard infantry armaments, the LSSAH underwent a significant re-equipment process, transforming into a Panzergrenadier division. This conversion provided armored vehicles, enhancing its operational depth and offensive capabilities. Among its formidable new assets was the Tiger I heavy tank, a combat vehicle armed with an 88mm KWK-36 gun and protected by 100mm of frontal armor. On the Eastern Front, the Leibstandarte, leveraging its new armored complement, consistently breached Soviet defensive lines. Records indicate that its heavy tank shells effectively neutralized entrenched positions and opposing formations. However, the unit's operational conduct extended beyond conventional combat. Testimonies from both post-war historians and captured former SS members describe a pattern of extreme brutality against Soviet prisoners of war and civilian populations. While specific casualty figures and methods remain subject to historical debate, the evidence suggests systemic violence. Commander Kurt Meyer is documented as having issued orders for the destruction of entire villages. Similarly, elements under Colonel Joachim Peiper gained notoriety, with their actions leading to the incineration of homes and churches, earning them the moniker the Blowtorch Battalion. These actions contributed significantly to the LSSAH becoming one of the most reviled SS divisions on the Eastern Front, prompting a resolute Soviet determination for retribution. By 1943, the strategic equilibrium on the Eastern Front shifted decisively. Soviet forces, having reconstituted their strength, initiated a monumental counteroffensive. Operation Kutuzov, launched on July 12th, witnessed approximately 800,000 Soviet troops and nearly 2,500 tanks breach German lines, systematically severing critical supply arteries and communication networks. The Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, LSSAH, experienced severe attrition, with operational reports indicating hundreds of personnel losses and the rapid relinquishment of strategic territories. This reversal underscored the escalating pressure on the German war machine. Facing a two-front crisis, the relentless Soviet advance in the east and the looming Allied invasion of Italy, the German High Command confronted a critical strategic dilemma. The LSSAH, initially deployed to stabilize the Eastern Front, received an abrupt order for redeployment to Italy. This forced withdrawal necessitated the abandonment of a substantial portion of its heavy armor and equipment, transferred to other units attempting to contain the Soviet tide. In Italy, despite achieving localized tactical victories against Allied forces, the division proved unable to stem the broader progression, confirming the impending collapse of Germany's Axis partner by 1944. The strategic situation deteriorated further with the Allied landings in Normandy in June 1944, codenamed Operation Overlord. This massive amphibious invasion, deploying over 1 million troops, mandated the LSH's urgent return to the Western Front to reinforce faltering German defenses. However, the sheer scale of the Allied advance proved overwhelming. As German positions in France disintegrated, the Leibstandarte was compelled to execute a difficult retreat eastward, only to be encircled by converging American, Canadian, and Polish forces within the Falaise Pocket. The ensuing engagement resulted in a devastating defeat, with records indicating over 5,000 casualties and the near-complete destruction of the division's remaining heavy equipment. Later, during the Ardennes Offensive, specific elements under Kampfgruppe Peiper, commanded by Joachim Peiper, a figure already infamous for his scorched earth tactics on the Eastern Front, engaged Allied forces. During this period, approximately 130 American prisoners of war were captured. Subsequently, near Malmedy, Belgium, historical accounts confirmed that around 84 of these prisoners were executed by LSSAH personnel, an event that became known as the Malmedy Massacre, indelibly marking the division's brutal operational history. Mid-April 1945, the command reached Josef Dietrich, leader of the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler. A directive from the Führer, fundamentally symbolic yet profoundly condemning, ordered every SS soldier who had once worn his name to remove it. This act signaled a complete disavowal, a public declaration that the unit had failed to meet the expected standards of combat, particularly in holding Austria against the advancing Soviet forces. By this juncture, the Leibstandarte, once an elite formation, was a mere remnant, reduced to approximately 600 personnel and a dozen operational tanks. Its combat effectiveness had been irrevocably compromised. Faced with the collapsing front, a significant number of its members opted for surrender to Western Allied forces, preferring this outcome to a final, desperate stand in Berlin. For those taken prisoner by the Western Allies, the post-war period involved extensive legal proceedings. Prominent among these was Kurt Meyer, a key commander on the Eastern Front. Records indicate Meyer, while incarcerated, expressed a belief in the superior commitment and ideological fervor of his troops compared to many conventional officers. Initially condemned to execution for war crimes, his sentence was commuted to life imprisonment, leading to his eventual release in 1954. The fate awaiting those captured by Soviet forces proved markedly harsher. The Red Army retained an extensive institutional memory of the Leibstandarte's documented atrocities on the Eastern Front, including the destruction of settlements and the systematic targeting of civilian populations. SS prisoners were consequently subjected to forced labor in Eastern camps, where the brutal climate and unforgiving conditions imposed by their captors led to widespread exhaustion, disease, and death. This divergent treatment underscored the unit's brutal legacy and marked the definitive end for one of the Third Reich's most ideologically driven and ruthless formations.